The Nitecore SRT9 is the latest light in the Smart Ring series of lights from Nitecore. It offers 8 different modes of light, including red, blue, green, and UV LEDs, in addition to the main LED in a cool white Cree XHP 50 LED. This light was provided by bestlight.io for me to review and has not influenced my opinions. So here's the light itself, and it just feels really solid. You can see it's a little bit bigger light. It uses 2 18650 cells, and I'll get into in a minute, but this thing just feels like it's built like a tank. The walls where the stores are sold here, you can see, are nice and thick, and it just feels really well built. The exterior design itself feels rugged, and all the cutouts are nicely smoothed over, so there's no real sharp edges or anything to cut you. The body itself is a little bit less aggressive, and the head itself is pretty aggressive in its cooling, and that cooling works well. The anodizing is even and has a little bit of gloss to it. It's a nice look. This flashlight isn't small or lightweight. I'll roll in a picture here with some other flashlights, and you can see how it compares. It's taller than the Olight R50 Pro. It's taller than the AceBeam EC35. It's also a little bit wider because it does use 2 cells. And with batteries, I weighed it in at 11.4 ounces. That being said, in my hand here, I really like how it holds. And the way this operates is with the Selector Switch, which I'll get into in a minute here, but I just think it's a nice natural handhold. It's a good length. This light will tail stand, although it's not really stable when doing so. It will stand on its face. The front here is a steel finished bezel that's screwed in, and it's painted in silver. The lens is double anti-reflective coated glass. The reflector itself is got an orange peel finish to it, and you can see it looks a little bit different from your standard flashlight that we're used to seeing. Kind of like what we're seeing here on the R50. The difference is those 4 holes contain the 4 colored LEDs, and in the center is your main white LED. The tail cap itself here is also real solid fitting. The latching mechanism takes a little bit of getting used to. You've got these 2 pins on either side, and you push both in at the same time, which is kind of hard to do, and then it comes out. So there's the tail cap itself. These are spring-loaded pins. So the tail cap itself has a circuit board on it with the springs, and this thing itself is just pretty heavy. You've got your push button on the back side, and Nitecore does include an extra switch and seals for this rear tail cap, and to remove that you undo these 4 small Phillips screws, take it off, put in the new piece of rubber, then put it all back on. To reattach takes a little bit of practice. First, there's no polarity markings on this. So you've basically just got to read the light like how it's built. The spring always goes on the negative side. So you push. I like to put this on here, get it close, and then I like to push in these pins just a little bit, and then rock to either side, and you get a nice satisfying snap. And I usually like to do one side at a time. This is a well-built tail cap. It's very stiff, and with this pin design, having to press both at the same time and then wiggle a little bit, I don't think you'll have any trouble with this coming off by accident. Like I mentioned, the bad thing about this is there's no polarity markings on the outside or the inside of the battery tube, so you can put the batteries in backwards and the light won't work. The light does have reverse polarity protection, so you won't damage the light in doing this, but it'd be something that I think Nitecore could really improve on and just make the light a little bit more usable. The manual does have a little guide to show you which direction the cells go in, so if you're having trouble, make sure you take a look at the manual to get these cells inserted correctly. This light is listed as having a beam distance of 246 meters. It's impact resistant to 1.5 meters. It's IPX8 water resistant. This light uses a Cree XHP 50 LED. It's a quad package LED, and it's a pretty large die size, so you can really see down in there well. Nitecore only offers this available in cool white tint. And Nitecore lists the main LED's lumen range as 0.1 lumens to 2,150 lumens. In my testing with other 0.1 lumen lights, that's just not accurate. I couldn't get this light to be that dim in comparison to my other lights. It was closer to 1 or probably 2 lumens. The UV LED is listed as having a 365 nanometer light output. It's not the brightest UV LED available. So in my testing here, I found out some interesting things when looking at money with the UV side of the light. So I have the UV turned on here, and I've got a $20 bill and a $100 bill here in front of me. And both have UV markers, and if I get close, you can see the UV band in here on the 20 just fine with the Nitecore SRT9. It's dim, but you can see it. On the $100 bill here, there's an orange strip, and you can't see it at all with the SRT9. I'm not sure why. I have a Convoy S2 here, and it's got a lot brighter UV LED, and it really pops well on the 20. And here on the 100, you can see it as well. It's still not as bright, but it's easy to see with the Convoy. So you've also got red LED, green, blue, a red and blue mode, and then a beacon. The red's listed at 13 lumens, the green at 19 lumens, and the blue at 3 lumens. The thing I like best about this light is the selector switch. It's got a normal on-off button in the back, but instead of having a mode button and having to double click or triple click or whatever it is to get into the modes you want, you just simply select and move this light. So there's an index place in the middle, and that's something I wish Nitecore would label on this light. I planned on putting a dot of white paint on this light in both the front and the back so I can know where that neutral point is. But when you scroll to the light, each place has an indent. And what's nice about this is this lets you scroll on the main white mode to whatever brightness you desire by just moving the selector ring. And you've got a D10 at the top to show at the top. Then you can keep going, you've got strobe. And if I move back to that central point, if I move 1 to the left, you get UV. If I keep moving, you get red, green, blue, the red-blue strobe mode, and then the beacon mode. This allows you to use the back switch for momentary if you're in one of the white modes. I just think it's a really nice way to operate the light in a really simple manner, one-handed. So when the flashlight is in the on position, this dot here shows a blue LED that just lets you know that, because it can be on, but you can have no light coming out of it. This is also your low battery indicator. So the beam pattern of this light is a little bit different. I was expecting with these cutouts to get artifacts on the white light, and you really don't. They've done a really nice job in controlling that. However, with the 4 other colors, you do get pretty significant artifacts with these cutouts because they're not in the center. Run times vary quite a bit depending on the configuration you're running the light in. On 2 18650 batteries, Nitecore quotes the color modes is lasting for 48 hours, and on white, ultra low is lasting as 250 hours, or turbo for 1 hour. This light does power down due to heat to a little bit. It won't sustain that 2150 lumens, but it's still a very usable light when it does power down because of heat. So the light is on. You can tell that by this blue LED that'll flash here. So all I need to do is rotate the selector switch and it comes on, and I can just keep going. I can stop anywhere I want or go all the way up. And if I come down and show you the beam pattern here, you can see the center has a warm spot with plenty of flood. This isn't a thrower, but it does a decent job throwing. You also have the strobe, which is fast. Coming down, you have UV light, which I mentioned before. It's not the brightest, so it doesn't really show up on camera. Rotating 1 to the left, you get red. Now, it's hard to see this distortion. It shows better outside at night in my night shots. But you can start to see distortions in the beam pattern here. I've got green, and you can really see that. And green's quite a bit brighter than red does, at least to the naked eye. Then you've got blue here, which really shows up well on my blue mat, even though it's not very many lumens. It's pretty even to the eye, but the camera's blowing it out. Then you have this red-blue mode. And lastly, you have beacon. I've got the Nitecore SRT9 here, and I'm going to show you the night shots. This light has a lot of different modes. I'm going to show you first the white modes, and then I'll go through the colored modes separately. So this light has a selector switch, so there's not defined levels of low, medium, and high like on most flashlights. So here I've got it on pretty low. As I keep going up here, I'll pan out. And there's max brightness, 2100 lumens. It throws real nice. It doesn't have a hot center. It's pretty well diffused. Same time, it throws decently. The light does have strobe. So this light has UV, which I'll kind of show, point at the camera here. It's not super bright, not like the Convoy UV model. Then if you rotate one more time, you've got red. And you get artifacts because of how the reflector is shaped in this. It's not an even beam for the colors here. Green, and I didn't move the flashlight there. Between green and red, you can see what I'm talking about. You get a lot of artifacts, and they just change beam location. Blue. This is the blue and red strobe mode. The red on strobe mode it seems to be less bright. I only had luck getting this light to run on button top cells. The unprotected flat tops I tried didn't work at all, and I suspect that's due to these contacts. Even though they're raised a little bit, you've got to clear the screws too, so you'd almost need a slightly domed flat top. On a lot of lights, people will use little tiny magnets to turn their flat tops into button tops, and on this light you cannot do so because it messes with the selector rings operation. This light does have a microprocessor that's constantly running according to the manual. And let's measure the drain here. About 11.8 milliamps. When I put this light through my standard 1 minute on turbo, it got to 90 degrees Fahrenheit when measured on my new multimeter. And I just did it for 2 minutes because I thought that was a fairly low number, and it got to 103 degrees Fahrenheit. Over the weekend, I took the SRT9 with me to a Milky Way photography class I went to. It turns out this isn't the best light for that because it ended up being a bit too bright in the red mode, and the moonlight mode was brighter than I had wanted. That said, we were looking for ultra dim lights as to not disturb our night vision in seeing the Milky Way. However, after everyone was done, I played with this more and found it to be a great to move between cars and really spot some stuff that we had forgotten in the grass. People, including myself, were pretty impressed with it on how far it could throw for not being a thrower light. To me, the best feature of this light is the selector ring. It works really well and it makes it super intuitive to use. The colors and modes for this light also make it really versatile in what you use it for and your use applications. I think this is my favorite light in July that I've reviewed. If you've missed some of my others, please make sure you go back and look at my channel and watch them. So the pros is, I really like the selector ring and interface of this light. It's really intuitive. This light feels really well built, and I'd say it's built like a tank. The white beam pattern on this light is really good considering the cutouts in the reflector. I did not expect it to be that good. And it throws pretty well. And it's nice to have a light with some color options and a great interface to access them. You don't have to remember how many times you have to push the button to get to green if you want to be in green. The cons of this light are there's no polarity markings in the battery compartment. You have to read the springs to know which way the caps and batteries go in. Remember, the spring side is always negative. I wish there was an external visual indicator for the beginning of the ramp mode, and I plan to correct that with a bit of white paint. And ultra low seems to be mismeasured. From my experience comparing to other lights, it's definitely more than 0.1 lumens. And the last thing I'd say is this battery compartment is just a little bit tricky to get on and off easily. Thanks for watching my video review of the Nitecore SRT9. Please make sure you're subscribed to my channel and like this video. If you have any questions, leave them below and I'll do my best to answer.